The scream of a wounded horse shattered the dawn just as Evelyn Rourke felt the cold barrel of a gun press against the back of her neck. For a single breath, the entire desert seemed to hold still. No wind, no birds, no sound but the frantic hammering of her heart. She didn't turn. She didn't speak. She only stared across the pale horizon where the sun rose like a molten coin behind the ribs of the mountains. That eerie quiet, broken only by her breathing, told her one thing. Whoever stood behind her wasn't looking to rob her. They wanted something else. Evelyn tightened her grip on her saddlebag. 30 years of surviving alone in the West had taught her that threats often came wrapped in silence. The air smelled of sagebrush and dust, but beneath it lingered something sharper smoke, faint and unsettling, coming from the canyon below. She swallowed hard. A low voice finally broke the stillness. "Turn around slow, white woman." She obeyed, lifting her hands. The moment she faced him, she froze. An Apache warrior towered before her, his chest bare except for a leather strap crossing over muscle carved like stone. His long black hair was braided with red cloth and owl feathers, his face painted in deep ochre streaks that made his dark eyes burn with fierce intensity. Blood soaked his left shoulder, staining his skin. He was hurt badly, but still dangerous enough to kill her without hesitation. He glanced at the saddlebag she'd dropped. "You heading north?" "Trying to," she whispered. "Just passing through." "Lie again," he warned softly, "and your journey ends here." She didn't lie this time. "I'm leaving Montana Territory for good. Heading to New Mexico. I don't belong here anymore." His gaze flicked over her simple traveling clothes, the faint scars on her arms, the hard-set determination in her jaw. She didn't look like some naive frontier woman. She looked like someone who'd had pieces carved out of her by life. He stepped closer. "Name, Evelyn Rourke." He repeated it under his breath, as if tasting the shape of it. "And you?" she asked, though she wasn't sure speaking was wise. He hesitated before answering. "Takoda." The name suited him. Silent thunder. His left arm trembled slightly. The wound was worse than he let on. Blood dripped down his fingers and dotted the sand. But his eyes stayed fixed on her, burning with something she couldn't read: wariness, pride, pain, and something else entirely. A distant crack snapped both their heads up, gunfire echoing from the canyon. Takoda stiffened. "They're coming," he muttered. "Who?" Evelyn demanded. He didn't answer. Instead, he collapsed to one knee, the strength finally draining from him. Evelyn acted on instinct, grabbing his arm before he fell face first into the dirt. "You're bleeding out," she said. His lips twitched as if amused. "You have a healer's hands?" "No," she said honestly. "But I've patched enough wounds to know you won't last another hour." Another shot rang out closer this time. Evelyn felt the vibration of it pulse through the ground. Takoda leaned toward her and whispered something that chilled her more than the gun against her neck. "They killed my family." Her breath caught. "All of them?" she asked. 3 wives, sisters, clan kin. His jaw flexed. "All gone." She wanted to say she was sorry, but the word stuck. Sorry meant nothing in a land ruled by violence. "Why are they after you?" she asked instead. "Because I lived," he said simply. She couldn't leave him. Even if she wanted to, her conscience wouldn't allow it, not after hearing that hollow ache buried behind his calm voice. "Come on," she said, pulling his good arm over her shoulder. "There's an abandoned line cabin a mile north. I can get you there." Takoda didn't resist. Maybe he no longer had the strength. They staggered across the flat stretch of desert, dust rising around their feet like ghosts. Every step felt like an invitation for death to find them. Evelyn kept scanning the horizon, heart hammering, waiting for the gunman to appear. "Why help me?" Takoda murmured. She met his gaze. Because no one helped me when my world burned. His expression shifted just slightly. Respect, recognition, pain understood. By the time they reached the cabin, Takoda could barely stand. She pushed open the warped door, lowered him gently to the floor, and tore open her saddlebag. As she reached for her water flask, Takoda caught her wrist with surprising strength. His eyes locked on hers, dark and intense. "I can't have children." Evelyn blinked, startled by the sudden confession. Takoda's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. "Then you'll raise mine instead." Evelyn's spine went cold. "What does that mean?" she whispered. He exhaled shakily. "It means those men are hunting me, because I carried the last bloodline of my clan." And before she could ask another question, footsteps crunched outside the cabin door. The door shook on its hinges as the footsteps halted outside. Evelyn's breath froze in her chest. Takoda, bleeding and barely conscious, still managed to tilt his head toward her with a warning sharp enough to cut through the panic. "Do not let them take me," he whispered. Evelyn pressed a finger to her lips, silently urging him to stay still. She moved toward the far wall, boots silent on the dusty floorboards. The small cabin had only one room, no place to hide except shadow. Her pulse hammered so hard she worried it would echo. Another step outside. Then another. "Search inside," a gruff male voice ordered. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. They were close, too close. And Takoda couldn't even stand, let alone fight. She grabbed the rusted fire poker from beside the hearth, clutching it like a weapon as the door began to creak open. But before it fully swung inward, the men paused. "Tracks lead past here," another voice said. "Fresh ones. Keep moving." Boots retreated. The silence afterward was so sudden, so complete. Evelyn sagged against the wall, breath shaky but relieved. Takoda exhaled painfully. "You saved us." Evelyn glanced at him. "Not yet. They'll circle back." She moved quickly, lighting a small oil lamp, then rummaged through her saddlebag. She pulled out strips of cloth, a small bottle of whiskey, and a needle she always carried. Old frontier habits died hard. Kneeling beside Takoda, she pushed aside the bloody leather strap across his chest. "Hold still," she said as she uncorked the whiskey. Takoda gave a faint, humorless smile. "I cannot move even if I wish to." Evelyn poured the whiskey over the wound. He hissed through his teeth, muscles taut as stone. She saw him clench his jaw, refusing to cry out. "You've lost a lot of blood," she murmured. "My people believe pain reveals truth," he said, voice strained. "This truth is unpleasant." "Pain isn't truth," Evelyn said, stitching the torn flesh with slow, precise movements. "It's just pain." "But you have known much of it," he observed quietly. Her hand paused, needle halfway through his skin. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence told enough. After several minutes, she tied off the stitches and wrapped his shoulder tightly. When she leaned back, sweat dampened her forehead. Takoda managed to sit upright a little. "Thank you," he said. Evelyn wiped her palms on her trousers. "Don't thank me. I didn't do it because of duty." "Then why?" She hesitated, unsure if she wanted to explain. "Finally," she said, "because when you said they killed your family, it reminded me of something I once lost." Takoda studied her face, those dark eyes sharpened by instinct. "Your husband?" "No," she said softly. "Myself." He didn't ask more. Maybe he understood. Maybe he knew that some wounds weren't on the skin. A sudden burst of wind rattled the cabin shutters. Evelyn pulled her coat tighter and sat down beside him, exhaustion pressing into her bones. "They'll return," Takoda said. "I know. They want the bloodline. My bloodline." Evelyn frowned. You said you can't have children. So how? He cut her off. The bloodline is not only through children. I carry sacred knowledge, rituals, maps, songs, language. The last pieces of my clan. If I die, it dies. A slow dread sank into her stomach. So they're trying to erase you, she whispered. Yes, he said. And now you are marked for helping me. Evelyn forced down the spike of fear. Then we need to move before they circle back. Move where? Takoda asked. I cannot travel far. Evelyn thought fast. There's an abandoned silver mine 2 miles east. A narrow entrance easy to defend. If we can get you there, we might survive the night. Takoda tried to stand but nearly collapsed. Evelyn caught him, steadying his weight. I will not slow you, he said. You already are, she replied bluntly, but I'm not leaving you here to die. Can you walk with help? Perhaps, then let's try. She slung his good arm over her shoulders, supporting him as they hobbled toward the door. Every step was agony for him. Every breath was a prayer for her. The desert sky outside had turned bruised purple, clouds gathering like silent watchers. As they stepped out into the dusky wilderness, Takoda murmured, Evelyn Rourke. Yes, if we survive. There is something I must tell you. Her brows drew together. What is it? But he only shook his head. Not yet. They walked into the deepening twilight, shadows stretching long behind them. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. And behind them, far behind, but closing fast boots hit the earth again. The desert wind bit at Evelyn's face as she half-carried, half-dragged Takoda across the rocky ground. Twilight deepened into night, the sky bruised with indigo clouds and streaks of fading orange. Each breath tasted of dust. Each step felt like they were walking deeper into danger rather than away from it. Takoda's weight pressed heavily on her. He stumbled again, a groan slipping through clenched teeth. We will not make the mine, he murmured. You're going to stay alive, Evelyn insisted, tightening her hold. I'm not letting those men finish what they tried to start. You do not know what they are, Takoda breathed. Then tell me. He didn't answer. His silence was heavy, too heavy, like someone carrying a truth that cut to the bone. A faint rumble drifted through the desert horses. Still distant, but unmistakable. Evelyn's stomach dropped. They were gaining ground. Faster, she urged. Takoda gave a faint, pained laugh. If I move faster, I will die faster. You won't die, she snapped. Not tonight. Her determination shocked even her. She'd spent years wandering the West with no one to protect but herself. She had never risked her life for a stranger. But Takoda wasn't a stranger anymore. Not after what he'd endured. Not after what she'd seen behind his eyes. A jagged outcrop of stone rose ahead, sharp, blackened, leaning like broken teeth. The mine entrance was somewhere beyond it. Almost there, she whispered. Takoda's knees buckled. Evelyn lowered him to the ground as gently as she could. He leaned against a boulder, face pale beneath streaks of ochre paint. I must rest, he said. Only a moment. Evelyn scanned the horizon. Horse silhouettes appeared against the dying light, dark shapes moving with deadly purpose. We don't have a moment, she said. Takoda's gaze drifted toward the riders. There was no fear in his face, only quiet acceptance. You could leave me, he said. You would survive. No, Evelyn said immediately. You owe me nothing. I owe myself something, she answered. And I'm done letting the world take what it wants. For the first time since she'd met him, Takoda's expression softened. There was understanding there, and something else, an unspoken thread binding them in shared wounds. Evelyn crouched beside him. Tell me what they want. Tell me what this bloodline business means. Takoda lifted his hand, touching the beaded necklace over his chest, a delicate pattern of turquoise, bone, and carved symbols. "My clan was called the Stoneleaf People," he began, voice low. "We kept the ancient knowledge, the burial grounds, the rites, the maps of water veins hidden beneath the desert. Knowledge enemies wanted. Knowledge they feared." Evelyn frowned. "Why kill your family?" Takoda's gaze darkened. "Because they refused to reveal what outsiders demanded. So they slaughtered them. And now they hunt me because I remember." Evelyn swallowed hard. "That's why you said I'd raise your bloodline." "Not with children," he said. "With protection. With memory. I cannot pass my blood. But someone must pass my history." A strange ache opened in her chest. She thought of her own past, of a life swallowed in flames, of a future she'd never been able to build. "Evelyn Rourke," Takoda said softly, "if I die, everything my people will turn to dust." "Then you're not dying," she said. He opened his mouth to argue, but she was already scanning the rock outcrop, searching for the narrow crevice she remembered. "There," she whispered. Between two jagged slabs of basalt lay a thin opening, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. "The mine entrance," she said. "We can squeeze in and hide." Takoda tried to stand. His legs trembled violently, but he braced himself against her shoulder. "Hold on," Evelyn urged. Together they staggered toward the shadowed rock face. Behind them, the riders drew closer, voices carrying over the desert wind. "Spread out? They couldn't have gone far." Evelyn's heart pounded. She shoved Takoda toward the crevice. He slipped inside, barely fitting. Evelyn followed, pulling loose stones to camouflage the entrance. Inside, darkness swallowed them, thick and cool. The mine smelled of damp earth and age. Crystals glimmered faintly on the walls, reflecting slivers of moonlight through cracks. Evelyn crouched beside Takoda, both breathing hard. Outside, the riders' horses trotted nearer. Boots hit the ground. Men muttered, "Tracks lead this way." Evelyn's stomach clenched. Takoda's hand found hers in the dark. His grip, though weak, was steady. "What happens now?" she whispered. Takoda leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Now," he said, "we pray the earth keeps secrets as well as we do." Outside, footsteps stopped directly in front of the hidden entrance. The footsteps outside stopped so close that Evelyn could hear the faint creak of leather and the jingle of spurs. She held her breath, muscles locked, terrified that even the sound of her heartbeat might give them away. The mine crevice was narrow, barely enough space for her and Takoda to crouch side by side. The air smelled of earth and iron, cold against her skin. Takoda's hand tightened around hers. His breathing had slowed but was too ragged, too shallow. She squeezed his fingers gently, grounding him. A man's voice cut through the night. "They're here. I can feel it." Evelyn pressed her back against the rock, eyes closed. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Another voice answered, deeper and impatient. "Look around again. If that Apache's alive, he won't get far. And the woman, she'll lead us right to him." A shiver crawled down Evelyn's spine. These men were not bounty hunters or soldiers. Their voices held something colder, like men who didn't fear law or conscience. Their boots scraped closer. Sand shifted. Someone stepped directly in front of the hidden crevice. Evelyn's fingers instinctively reached for Takoda's knife tucked at her belt. If the stones moved even a fraction, minutes stretched like hours. The men murmured, searched, argued. Then, finally, one of them spat into the dirt. "Fine. We circle the ridge again. They can't stay hidden forever. And when we find him, drag the woman with him." "She talk?" Evelyn felt Takoda flinch beside her. She didn't react. The horses moved off, hooves fading into the night. Even after silence settled, she waited another full minute before she exhaled. Her body sagged in relief. "They're still close," Takoda murmured, voice weak. "Yes," she said. "But they didn't find us. Not yet." Evelyn turned to him. In the dim filtered moonlight, she could see the strain in his jaw, the sweat beading on his brow. He was burning up. "You're fevered," she whispered. "The wound's infected." Takoda didn't deny it. "My body will hold for some time. Not at this rate." She pulled her canteen from her saddlebag and pressed it to his lips. He drank slowly, then leaned his head back against the cold stone wall. "Why are they so determined?" she asked quietly. "You said they want the knowledge you carry, but they're hunting you like you're worth more than gold." Takoda hesitated before answering. "Because my clan guarded something beyond rituals. Something buried in the desert many generations ago." "Buried?" Evelyn echoed. "What?" "A relic," he said. "But not like the trinkets white men trade. This one holds a power spiritual, sacred. My people believed it could heal or destroy depending on the hands that wielded it." Evelyn frowned. "And these men want it?" Takoda nodded. "They found clues in our village. But without me, they cannot find what they seek." A cold realization struck her. "Then taking you alive is worth more to them than killing you." "Yes," Takoda said softly. "Alive, I am a map. Dead, I am useless." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. She'd wandered the West long enough to know that greed drove men to madness. If Takoda truly carried the last memory of something powerful and buried, those hunters would burn the whole territory down to get it. And now she was tangled in the same web. Takoda's gaze met hers. Even weakened, his eyes were steady, piercing. "You should leave this place when it is safe," he whispered. "You owe my people nothing, Evelyn Rourke." She looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm not leaving you, not while you're hunted and half dead. You risk your life." "Maybe my life hasn't been worth much in a long time," she murmured. "But helping you feels like the first right thing I've done in years." Takoda's lips parted slightly, as if moved by something he hadn't expected. Then pain lanced through him, making his body jerk. Evelyn grabbed his shoulders. "Takoda, stay with me." He grit his teeth, breathing hard. "The fever clouds my mind." She reached into her bag again, searching. "I have herbs, nothing strong, but I can try to bring the fever down." Takoda's hand shot out, catching her wrist with surprising clarity. "No," he whispered. "They are close. When they return, they will smoke us out or collapse the entrance. We must leave before dawn." Evelyn stared at him. "Takoda, you can barely stand." He met her gaze, fierce and unyielding despite the tremor in his limbs. "If I stay, I die," he said. "If you stay, you die with me." She swallowed hard. "Then we walk before dawn." He nodded slowly. But before she could say anything more, a sudden flicker of orange light danced across the rocks outside firelight. Voices rose. The men had returned, and they were setting the ridge ablaze. Smoke curled into the narrow mine, bitter and thick. Evelyn coughed, waving her hand in front of her face to push it away. Takoda's eyes were half closed, pain etched in every line of his face, but he refused to speak. The fire outside had grown larger, licking the desert ridge, sending sparks like fleeting stars into the night sky. "We have to move," Evelyn whispered, urgency trembling in her voice. She pulled on Takoda's arm, trying to lift him. His body trembled violently, and she realized the fever had worsened. "We can't wait here. We'll be trapped." He nodded slightly, lips pressed tight. "I trust your judgment, Evelyn Rourke. Lead." She forced a weak smile, though fear clawed at her chest. We'll make it." Slowly, painfully, she helped him to his feet. Each step was a delicate balance. Takoda leaned heavily on her shoulder, the sweat from his fever soaking into her coat. His hand brushed hers at one point, and the brief contact carried more reassurance than either dared admit. The mine tunnel twisted and turned, narrower now, with jagged rocks scraping their clothes and skin. Every creak of rock underfoot sounded like a gunshot in the tense silence. Evelyn's mind raced. If the pursuers found them inside the mine, there would be nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. After what felt like hours, they emerged into a wider cavern. A faint underground stream trickled through the stone floor, its cold water glimmering in the dim moonlight spilling through cracks above. Evelyn knelt and offered Takoda a drink. He sipped slowly, shivering, but his eyes brightened with a flash of relief. "Better," she murmured. "At least we're alive." Takoda managed a faint nod. For now. The cavern walls were adorned with crude marking symbols and lines scratched into the stone, faint from age. Takoda's eyes softened as he traced them with his finger. "My people." Left reminders for those who might come after. Evelyn studied the marks. "Do you think anyone will follow these?" "They will try," he replied. "But few can read them as I can." She glanced at him, noticing how his body sagged despite his effort to remain upright. "Takoda, the fever. We need to stop for a bit." "You're too weak." "I have survived worse," he whispered. "And worse waits for us outside." Evelyn's chest tightened. "I'm not leaving you." He shook his head faintly, frustrated with his own limitations. "You have risked everything already. I am proud. But foolishness will not save me." Her hands clenched around his. "Then we do it together. That's all we can do." Takoda's lips curved into a ghost of a smile. "Perhaps. We are alike, you and I, survivors of burned homes, empty lands, and endless pursuit." Evelyn allowed herself a small laugh, dry and tense. "We are alike, all right. Only difference is I'm used to carrying myself, not someone else." "You carry more than me," he said softly. "You carry hope." The sound of their pursuers grew fainter outside, but Evelyn knew it was temporary. The desert was merciless, and these men were relentless. Every decision could mean death. Every moment of hesitation could be the last. She led him deeper into the cavern, finding a small alcove just big enough for them to rest. Takoda sank against the stone wall, exhaustion and pain washing over him. Evelyn spread her coat beneath him and adjusted the bandages on his shoulder. He winced but said nothing. "You've been carrying pain silently," she said gently, "but you don't have to hide it from me." Takoda's eyes met hers. "I have hidden nothing from the wind, the stones, or the desert. Only from those who might pity me." Evelyn's lips pressed together. "Pity isn't what I feel. Concern. Yes. Fear. Yes, but never pity." His hand found hers again, trembling slightly. "I do not deserve such loyalty." "You do deserve it," she insisted. "You've done what I could not keep walking when every step felt like death." A long silence followed, broken only by the faint gurgle of the stream. The cavern was quiet, yet every sound seemed amplified, the drip of water, the shifting of rocks, Takoda's labored breathing. Evelyn could feel the weight of history pressing down on them, his bloodline, his people's legacy, the hunters outside, and now their fragile survival together. Finally, Takoda spoke. "Evelyn, if I do not survive this night, you must remember what I have said. My knowledge, my people, must not die with me." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I will not let it die," she promised. "I swear it." A shadow of determination crossed his face. Even in pain, even weakened, Takoda's pride and resilience shone. Evelyn felt a surge of fierce protectiveness and understanding. In this desolate, unforgiving land, two lost souls had found a purpose beyond themselves and a fragile bond that might yet survive the night. Above them, the moon rose, illuminating the cavern in silver light. The desert waited, silent and watchful. But inside the stone walls, Evelyn and Takoda shared a fragile moment of reprieve and unspoken vow that together they would face whatever dawn brought. The first gray streaks of dawn filtered through cracks in the cavern ceiling, painting the walls in pale, trembling light. Evelyn stirred, shaking off the exhaustion that had settled into her bones overnight. Takoda lay against the stone wall, still weak, still fevered, but the fire that burned in his eyes was undiminished. "We can't stay here much longer," Evelyn whispered. "If they circle back, we'll be trapped." Takoda shifted slightly, wincing at the movement. "I can walk," he said quietly, though each word carried effort. "Slowly, but we must leave." Evelyn helped him to his feet. His body was lean, powerful, and scarred, a warrior tempered by pain, but every movement betrayed the toll of the night. She draped her coat over his shoulders, and together they crept toward the cavern's exit. Outside, the desert greeted them in muted colors, ashen sands, pale sagebrush, and the jagged outline of distant mountains. The wind had died down, leaving only the faint whisper of the stream below. Evelyn scanned the horizon, heart hammering. No horses, no riders. Yet. But she knew better than to trust the quiet. Takoda stepped first, leaning heavily on her, eyes scanning the ridge. "They know I am here," he said. "They are patient. They will return." "Then we get to the north ridge," Evelyn said, nodding toward a rocky bluff. "There's a shallow canyon there. Hard to follow." He studied her for a moment, his gaze sharp despite his weakness. "You trust me?" "I trust my instincts," she replied. "And my instincts tell me that if we run, we survive." He allowed a small, wry smile. "Your instincts are sharp." They moved carefully, the sand soft underfoot, until the bluff rose before them. Evelyn guided him toward a natural formation, a narrow gorge with steep sides that hid them from view. Takoda's breathing grew heavier, but he remained silent. Each step was measured, deliberate, like a dance choreographed in pain. As they reached the gorge, Takoda's expression hardened. "Evelyn, I must tell you something. Something you must understand." She looked at him, alarm flickering. "What is it?" He drew a deep, shuddering breath. "I have lived many years as a warrior, a protector of my people. My hands have known blood, not just my enemies, but kin who were lost. I carry a burden that cannot be shed lightly." Evelyn tightened her grip on his arm. "Whatever it is, we face it together." He stared at her, dark eyes burning, then continued. "I cannot have children. My clan, my bloodline, will end with me unless someone carries it forward." Evelyn's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Takoda's hand brushed her cheek, gentle but commanding. "I mean you, Evelyn. You have survived much. You have strength. You will remember, protect, and raise what I cannot. My history and my people, my bloodline, it will live because of you." A shiver ran through her. She had never been chosen, never entrusted with responsibility of this magnitude. But the weight of his words didn't terrify her, it ignited something deep inside. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Because your spirit is unbroken. Because you see the world clearly. Because you can endure what others cannot." She looked away, staring at the windswept canyon below. The enormity of his trust pressed upon her, yet she felt a surge of purpose. "Then I will not fail you, Takoda. I swear it." He nodded, and for a moment, exhaustion fell away from his features, replaced by something almost serene. "Good. You will need courage." "For what comes next?" Evelyn glanced up at the distant ridge. Beyond it lay the hunters' merciless men who would not stop until Takoda was dead. We face them together? Yes, he whispered. And when dawn breaks, they will see. They underestimated us. The first glint of sunlight struck the desert sand, and the hunters' silhouettes appeared on the horizon, moving with deliberate patience. Evelyn stiffened. Takoda gripped her hand, grounding her, his strength a quiet promise. "Ready?" he asked. "Always," she replied. They moved through the gorge like shadows, silent and coordinated. Evelyn's heart pounded, but she felt an unspoken rhythm with Takoda, a connection forged not in words but in shared survival. Every step forward was a step away from death. Suddenly, one of the hunters spotted movement, too far to aim, but close enough to shout. A horn blared, warning the others. Evelyn's pulse surged. Takoda's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, his warrior instincts returned fully. Despite his wounds, his body tensed, ready to defend what remained of his legacy. Evelyn swallowed hard. "Then we fight." Takoda gave her a small nod, the first real smile in days. "Not just fight," he said. "We survive together." The desert stretched endlessly before them, harsh and unyielding. But as they moved through the rocky canyon, two figures against the rising sun, it was clear that no fire, no gun, and no greed could sever the bond between them, not when the fate of a people rested in their hands. And in that moment, Evelyn knew. Whatever dawn brought, she would rise to meet it, side by side with the warrior who had entrusted her with his life and everything that came after. The sun rose higher, burning the desert in a harsh gold, yet the gorge provided shade, masking their movements. Evelyn's arms ached from supporting Takoda, whose strength was nearly gone. His breaths came in shallow, ragged pulls, but his dark eyes burned with unyielding resolve. "They'll split their search," Evelyn whispered. "Some to follow us, some to block the canyon. We need a plan." Takoda's gaze swept the terrain, scanning the ridges and dunes with the precision of a seasoned warrior. "There is a path and narrow ledge along the cliff. Dangerous, but it will bring us above them, unseen." Evelyn glanced at the edge, sheer rock walls rising high. "You can make it?" she asked, fear knotting her stomach. "I must," he replied. "If I fall behind, they will overtake us." Slowly, painfully, he began the climb, and Evelyn followed, steadying him at every misstep. Their hands brushed, holding more than balance. They held the fragile trust that had grown between them. Takoda's body was lean muscle honed by years of survival, but fever and blood loss made each movement a battle. Evelyn adjusted her grip, refusing to let him falter. Halfway along the ledge, a shout echoed from below. One of the hunters had spotted movement. Evelyn froze, her heart thundering. Takoda's hand gripped hers, firm and commanding. "Do not falter," he said. His voice, though weak, carried authority. "We survive this together." The hunter's rifle cracked. Sand erupted beneath the shot. Evelyn dragged Takoda behind a rock outcrop, holding her breath. "They are desperate," she whispered. "Desperate men make mistakes." Takoda's eyes glimmered with grim determination. "Then we use it." They waited, listening to the men curse and shift below. Then, slowly, carefully, they edged along the ledge, higher, closer to the canyon's exit that opened onto a hidden plateau. Evelyn felt every inch as if they were suspended between life and death. Finally, the plateau stretched before them, tall sagebrush masking their presence. Takoda lowered himself to the ground, exhaustion crashing into him, but he remained alert. Evelyn kneeled beside him, brushing dust and sweat from his face. "You did it," she breathed. He managed a faint smile. "Barely." Evelyn scanned the plateau. Below, the hunters were regrouping, frustrated. Their frustration made them predictable. Evelyn spotted a dry creek bed that led north, narrow, winding, and difficult for horses. "We follow the creek," she said. "It'll take us out of their reach." Takoda nodded, testing his legs. Pain etched each movement, but he stood, leaning heavily on her. "Lead the way." They moved through the underbrush, Takoda steadying himself on Evelyn. Despite the distance they had covered, the desert heat and the treacherous terrain pressed down on them. Sweat and dust coated their bodies, yet their pace never faltered. Hours passed. By midday, the canyon walls gave way to a wider desert basin. Evelyn spotted a cluster of stones forming a natural shelter. "We rest there," she said. Takoda sank to his knees, and she knelt beside him, offering water from her canteen. He drank slowly, eyes closing in brief relief. "You've done more than survive," Evelyn whispered. "You've given me a chance to protect something bigger than myself." Takoda's eyes opened, meeting hers. "And you have done more than anyone imagined. You carry what I cannot: strength, courage, and memory. You are the guardian of my people's legacy." Evelyn felt a warmth in her chest, a mix of pride and resolve. "Then I'll see it through, no matter what comes next." Takoda's hand reached for hers. "There is one last thing you must understand," he said softly. "The relic, the knowledge, it must be kept hidden. Its power is not for greed. Only the worthy, those who honor the land and our people, may know its secret." Evelyn nodded. "I understand." He studied her for a moment, then a faint smile brushed his lips. "Good. Then perhaps, someday, the world will remember not just the bloodline, but the bond formed to protect it." They rested in silence, the desert wind carrying whispers of history and survival. Somewhere beyond the basin, the hunters had grown tired, circling back to the trails that could no longer lead to them. Their cries were distant now, fading beneath the vastness of the desert. Evelyn leaned against Takoda, the heat of his body grounding her, the weight of the past and the future pressing together. "We made it," she said. "Yes," he replied, voice faint but certain. "Together we made it." As the sun climbed high, casting gold across the sand, the two stood and faced the horizon. Their journey had begun with desperation and danger, yet it ended with understanding, survival, and a purpose beyond themselves. Evelyn realized then that life, no matter how brutal or unfair, could still hold trust, connection, and meaning even in the unforgiving expanse of the West. Takoda touched her shoulder, a gesture of gratitude and respect. "You have done more than anyone could ask." Evelyn met his eyes. "No," she said, shaking her head. "We did it together." And in the heat of the desert, beneath the wide-open sky, two souls who had faced fire, blood, and relentless pursuit finally found a fragile peace, one that carried the promise of survival, legacy, and the unspoken bond of two lives intertwined forever. The hunters, defeated and distant, would remember the story of the Apache who survived and the woman who chose to fight by his side, but only the desert and the wind would truly know the courage, the sacrifices, and the legacy that had been preserved that day. Evelyn and Takoda stood, silhouettes against the blazing horizon, ready to carry forward what must never be forgotten. The desert, harsh and eternal, had tested them, and they had endured.